Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Hello, sweet friends, and welcome back to the Breakthrough Brand podcast. I'm so thrilled to bring you this topic. Before we dive in, I have a few quick things to say. So first, when I came up with these tips, I basically was asking myself, okay, Elizabeth, what would I want to tell a dear friend who is diving into, for the first time, business and motherhood together? So maybe you're expecting or you just had a baby. What would I want to tell her about productivity, business, and motherhood? And these are the things I wrote down through asking this question. So whether you're expecting or you're a new-ish mom like me, or maybe you've been doing it a lot longer than me, I think you're going to find something here within these strategies of getting more done with limited time as a mom. Because let's be real, the way we run our businesses changes a ton when you add children into the mix. So I did an episode a few weeks ago that could actually be considered kind of like a part one to this. That was episode 172. And that one's called My Top 4 Productive Mom Hacks for Running a Successful Business with a Baby. So tune into that one after this one if you haven't already listened to it. And if you're new here, real quick, I just want to share a little bit about who I am and where I am in this motherhood journey for context into like what I'm about to share. So I'm Elizabeth and I'm a mom to actually a just turned 1-year-old baby boy named Colin. As I'm recording this, he just turned 1 this past weekend, which was really fun. And we actually have his birthday coming up in a few days, his birthday party. So that's really fun. And I run an online business where I work from home. So my business and life changed a ton since having my son Colin. I had my business prior to becoming a mom. And I love to share on this podcast what's working for me within these changes and what I'm learning while I'm like in the trenches of it and while it's still new to me and while I can still like remember what was hard and what worked and what didn't and all of that kind of stuff. So these are like 5 strategies that have helped me with getting things done on a tighter schedule now that I'm a mom, and also through the context of not having a lot of childcare help within the first year of Colin's life. So I've talked about this on previous episodes, but my husband and I do childcare together. We just had some shifts in our childcare system that is a conversation for another day. But the majority of Colin's first year, we both have worked some and we've both taken care of Colin some. So both kind of reduced our work hours to more like part-time and then taking care of Colin the other part of the time. We also have had family like come into town and help and stuff. But like generally speaking, we haven't done like formal childcare like a nanny or daycare or anything like that. So that's also the perspective I'm kind of coming from of like, hey, you're working during nap time, you're working during a tighter schedule, you're working likely with your baby in the house with you, that sort of stuff. Okay, last thing before I get into the tips, some of these things might not work for your own life and schedule. So take what works for you and leave what doesn't. I also know that things do look different when you add in more kids or you add in older kids. So I can only share from my own experience, and I'm sharing this from the perspective of like, I guess you could still call me a new-ish mom, of like a mom to a 1-year-old. So from that perspective of 1 kid. So apply this as you can to your own life and business. And I hope you get so much value here. So let's dive into these 5 strategies to get more done with your limited time as a working mom. All right, my first big tip for you that really has truly been a game changer for me in the first year of Colin's life when I'm trying to get work done. And that is to plan times that you can work away from your baby while you leave someone else you trust to take care of him or her. What I mean by this is when I say leave, like working away from your baby, I do not mean you're in your office and your baby's in the next room sleeping. I mean like literally being able to leave the house for work if your baby is at home being taken care of. Like if you're saying, hi, I'm going into like focused work time, you leave the house, you're going to a coffee shop, a co-working space, whatever it is, whatever makes sense in your life and business, but you're going to work outside of the home while your baby is in the home. I'm someone who, prior to having a baby, I always just was like, I'm working from home. I love working from home. I never was actually that into working in coffee shops because I felt like I focused best in my home office. And I have a really beautiful home office that I like love and enjoy being in. So like the coffee shop thing was more of like, I did that when I just need to like focus for a few hours on one specific thing every now and then. But now in this first year of Colin's life with a baby who's often home too when I'm working, right? We don't take him out for like too long of outings, generally speaking. And he's just downstairs or even possibly one room over. My office is right next door to Colin's bedroom. I find that I get a lot more done with this current life situation if I go to a coffee shop for like 3 to 4 hours straight with no distractions than if I were to be at home working for like 5 hours with me popping in and out downstairs, taking breaks to breastfeed, taking breaks to be like, oh, wait, the nap's not working. Let me help. Oh, wait, you need an extra hand. Let me help with that. Oh, wait, I'm going to go downstairs. And now Colin sees me and now he wants to play. And now 20 minutes have passed. I get more done if I just go away for a little while and then I can come back and be present as a mom. So Adam and I intentionally, like again, in this first year, have planned these work sessions for me. It's so funny. Adam always called these days going off campus. So he'd be like, are you working off campus today? Am I working off campus today? I don't campus being our home. It's just a funny little thing he kind of said as a joke once and then it stuck. So he would like encourage me, hey, Elizabeth, go work off campus today. It sounds like that'd be a good thing to go work off campus for. So I would go do that where I'd leave and be gone for a few hours. And again, I say I would do that. I still do this, but I actually haven't done this in like probably a few weeks now because we have started a parents day out program with Colin, like a preschool 2 days a week. So it's kind of changed a little bit for us. But before we were not doing this the whole first year, being gone for a few hours helped me get so much more work done. And it put me in a different headspace not being in the house because it was like, I'm completely off baby duty right now. And that's why I say too, leaving your child with someone that you trust. With my husband, I'm like, he can do everything I can do except for breastfeed. And I trust him completely to take care of things. Whereas like if I'm here though, and I like hear that Colin, clearly fell down and is crying downstairs, I'm going to want to go help. So it's nice to just be removed, no distractions. And I think this will allow you again to get more done in less time because when you do go to work, you're able to just like get it all done, be focused completely, and then come back and integrate yourself back into your home life. And kind of like separate those two a little bit so you can get the focused work done. And now too, for me, now that Colin's not a super newborn anymore, just thinking about like real quick from like a breastfeeding perspective, if you are a mom who's breastfeeding, if your baby is still like in those first few months of breastfeeding, maybe to like month 4 or 5, I would say, you might be gone when you hear me say like gone for like 3 or 4 hours and be like, oh gosh, that means I have to like bring my pump with me to Starbucks. Like that sounds really inconvenient. For me, when I really started doing this consistently was after my milk supply had regulated more. So I would actually just straight up miss a feed and Colin would get a bottle of either pumped milk from the freezer or formula because we do supplement with formula, usually just for a bedtime bottle, but sometimes for this type of situation as well so I can be away. And so I would be gone at Starbucks or wherever and I don't have to pump. So that makes going away easier. And I kind of learned that like my milk supply is going to be fine as long as I like, if it was, let's say, a 3 hour, 4 hour stretch, if I feed him right when I get back. So that's just a little quick tip that early on, it might be hard to do that without having to like pump while you're gone. But like once your milk supply is regulated, you'll be good to go. So that's my first tip, planning time that you can work away from your baby while someone else you trust is taking care of him or her. And a little final thing to add to that, now that Adam and I do have Colin 2 days a week in this Parents Day Out program, it is nice because it's actually the opposite of what I just said. Colin's leaving the house and I'm staying at home. So I'm having that same sort of like separation that allows me to just totally get in the work zone, only it's in reverse of him leaving and me being here, which is a lot different. But yeah, early on, it was me leaving and him staying here. Okay, number 2. With your limited time, be very selective in what you focus on in your business. Now, you might be ready to tune me out and kind of be like, Elizabeth, obviously everyone says, focus on what's important, automate things, delegate, all of that. But I really want you to like try to hear what I'm about to say, not through the lens of you've heard it a million times. That's just my quick request. I get into this one. Don't tune me out. Try to really hear this one because I do feel like this is so helpful as a new mom or as a mom who's like adapting to like business and motherhood together. So you cannot do everything, especially in those early months of motherhood. I'd even argue in the first year of motherhood, maybe even the whole time now that you have this new beautiful, wonderful responsibility that you're excited about and another focus in your life. And so when you deal with your limited work time, though, you have to pick what the time goes to probably more deliberately than you were before when it's kind of just like, oh, I have all this time to kind of like do whatever I want within it. So you have to pick what goes where and what you're spending your time on. So with this, I would say some things are worth hiring help for. I'm all about this, like delegating when you're able to. And I would actually add that since I've become a mom, I've become a better delegator because I've had to be. So it's like, hey, that's kind of just like what I need to do. And I've become better at it. And it's helped my business grow in many ways, be able to kind of let go of things and give other people more autonomy. And then in addition to that, some things are worth trying to automate and create systems around for you to do so that you can do them less. Like you still do them, but it's less time and effort. So things that like, you can't delegate, but you kind of systematize or automate. And there are other things though that you might need to let go of for this season or possibly even longer than this season. And that is okay. So I have done this in many ways since Colin's been born. And I want to just share a few examples with you of like the true letting go. Again, I'm saying like sometimes automating is good, hiring, delegating, all of that, systematizing, but sometimes you just need to like let go of some things for the season and know that that's okay. So some things I've let go of at times in this first year of motherhood. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. I don't post on Instagram as much as I have in other seasons. If you like follow me regularly and like look at my page regularly, you might have noticed that. Otherwise, you might not have, and that's okay. It doesn't have to like affect your business to like stop doing something like that super regularly. But like, yeah, I'm not posting on Instagram as much as I have in other seasons. I'm also not spending tons of times looking for like trending reels, music, making videos, all of that. Not to say those things are bad, and not to say I'm not going to like refocus on that in other seasons, but I'm trying to focus on what's working and what aligns with my time right now and what I have the time for. And I've like almost deliberately focused away from Instagram of like, okay, I'm going to do what I want to do here. I'm going to show up how I want to show up. And it might be different than in past seasons, and it might be different than it'll be in future seasons. Another thing, for a little while, I switched this podcast to being every other week. I'm back right now to doing every single week, but for quite a few months, maybe, I don't remember how many exactly, but kind of coming off of my maternity leave and getting back into the swing of work, I just deliberately decided, hey, I'm going to start doing every other week schedule. So still on Tuesdays, but only every other week. And I'm just literally not going to air anything on the off weeks. And I did not make any kind of formal announcement about that. You don't have to do that. You can just kind of make a change without telling everyone. But yeah, I didn't do any sort of formal announcements. I just started doing it. That's what I needed in that season, was like really delivering super high quality content, but not feeling like I had to do it every single week because I didn't have the calendar time for it. Another thing, I've hired more help in my business. I've delegated more things since Colin's been born. And that's just a few examples. But like the truth is, I've had to let a lot of things go. And I truly believe that business is seasonal, life is seasonal. And you might just be in a season with your business where like you're doing less things. So I would just really encourage you to like look at your business, focus on what's working in order for you to maintain where you are right now or to grow. It's okay if your goal right now as a new mom or at whatever stage in your motherhood journey you are, if your goal is just to maintain. I definitely felt that some in this first year of motherhood of like, hey, I'm not trying to like break all my revenue, past accomplishments and do new things there. I'm just trying to like keep things going, and that's okay. Business is seasonal, and that's a beautiful thing, is that if you're in it for the long haul, it doesn't have to be like the best year ever every single year. Okay, one thing before I finish this point, I want to read a quote from Tim Ferriss on this topic I've loved. And I actually have another tip within here that relates heavily to this, but this is from his book, The 4 Hour Work Week, which I actually recently reread and absolutely just love this book. I read it for the first time in high school and then reread it again early on in my business and now again recently. So the quote says, "Being overwhelmed is often as unproductive as doing nothing and is far more unpleasant. Being selective, meaning doing less, is the path of the productive. Focus on the important few and ignore the rest." So that, I just feel like that sums this up really well, that like if we're just spending our life and spending our business overwhelmed, that's often more unproductive than if we were to just literally do nothing. And it's obviously way more unpleasant, but being selective and doing less, that is how we are productive, and focus on the few important and ignoring other things. So like really asking yourself in this season, what are the things I can ignore, would be my call to action for you there. Okay, number 3, this is a big shift on like the advice here. And then number 4 kind of relates to number 2 really well. All right, my third tip though, for getting more done, getting the right things done as a mom, is to have the occasional early morning or late night work session. And when I say doing this, I would add in like when I say do it occasionally, do it intentionally. So like you're doing this with the intention of like, hey, I'm trying to get this thing done, versus like kind of working while you're kind of watching TV, while you're kind of like unloading the dishwasher a little bit and like eating some ice cream or whatever it is. But here's why, and here's kind of the explanation, the how-to behind this. You're limited on time, but maybe you have big goals and big things you're working on right now. So you can plan the extra time to work on your business every now and then in the post bedtime or before your baby wakes up in the morning time spans. It's really nice once your baby is not in the like napping a ton every single day, you're probably putting them down for bed sometime between 6:30 and 8 p.m. So there's a few hours there that might be a good time to do some work before you go to bed. And same thing in the morning, depending on when your kids wake up, you probably have a few hours that you could get up before then, before they get up, to get a little bit of work done. Now, I want to say, if you are still in the thick of night feeds, then don't do this. Go get all the sleep you can. Go to bed when your baby goes to bed. Wake up when your baby wakes you up in the morning. I'm all about that. And I actually, I'm not doing night feeds anymore at this point, but I still most days am waking up when Colin wakes up. I don't go to bed when he goes to bed. I stay up much later, but I often still am waking up like at 7-ish when he gets up, which is really nice. But again, in a season where you're like, oh, I have like this particular thing I'm trying to get done, this would be a great way to do it. But again, if you're in thick of night feeds, just ignore my advice. Get all the sleep you can. But when your baby's sleeping more consistently, you can consider getting up early 1 day a week to get maybe like 2 focused hours of work done before your baby wakes up, or after you put them down. Instead of watching TV or doing something else leisurely, put in 2 hours on your business. That's like right there. If you did that just twice a week, let's say for a month, that's 4 hours a week that you're getting some really good focused time on your business. So I actually got this idea originally from Ashlyn Carter, and I'm going to explain to you how she explained doing it, but she shared this on the Call to Both podcast with Joy Michelle, which I'm also on the episode she shared this on. I'm going to link to it in the show notes because it's an incredible episode, a compilation of work from home productivity hacks from working moms. And it's myself, Stephanie Case, Ashlyn Carter, and Ashley Freehand, who all share some tips. So anyway, it's a really great episode. But Ashlyn's tip, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so smart. And she was sharing the way she does this is actually by having an accountability partner of like another business owner. And maybe like both of you guys are saying, hey, we're holding each other accountable 4 a.m. on this day for, a month or whatever amount of time. We are meeting on Zoom with, and I think she literally talked about how like you got your cup of coffee, no makeup, you're just ready to go, hair up in a messy bun, and y'all are opening Zoom, saying hi, and then just keeping it pulled up together for like accountability while you accomplish whatever the thing it is you're working on. And I just thought that was such a great idea, particularly the like having someone else there that you're like quote unquote meeting with. Same concept as like how we need a workout buddy to really make it to the gym at an early time. I think this would be true of like this type of season as well. So maybe if you're in a season where you're like, hey, I could really use an extra like 2 or 3 hours once a week when my baby's sleeping to like get this particular thing done in my business, ask a business friend anywhere in the world to, hey, come meet with me on Zoom. Let's like meet on Zoom and start the Zoom call, check in on what we're doing, and then both work on our own thing. If you're in Breakthrough Brand All Access, definitely like if this is something that interests you, post about in the group. And I'm sure you could find like an accountability buddy to do this with for like some early morning work sessions. But yes, I really love this one though, and wanted to include it, but that would be having the occasional early morning or late night work session after the kids are asleep. Okay, number 4, let go of traditional views of time management. Again, let me explain this one before you tune me out. But we've been taught that every job needs to be done between the hours of 9 to 5, and that every job somehow takes exactly 40 hours a week to do well. And that is simply not true. Your business likely does not need 40 hours a week from you. It's a total myth. And now that you're a mom, you might be looking at your schedule being like, oh my gosh, I don't even have 40 hours to give anyway. I don't even have 20 hours to give. I don't even have 10, whatever the number it is, which can be scary at first, feeling that like time scarcity. But what I want to tell you is that the time scarcity can actually be a gift to help you towards a more fulfilling life and more work-life balance. And that is being able to figure out getting more of the important things done in a smaller window of time. It's going to be a game changer for your business and for your life. Again, back on like, I kind of hate the term work-life balance, like work-life integration makes more sense, but it's going to help you with that more if you aren't chained to the belief that it takes 40 hours a week to do your work and that it has to be done during these particular hours. So I have often said to myself since becoming a mom, and I actually said this on a podcast interview I did last week that you guys will hear at some point, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I was doing with my time before I was a mom, because looking back, I feel like I was just, wow, I was wasting so much time, even though I felt very productive then as well. Just I'm more productive now because I have less work hours to fill my time with. More things to fill my work hours with, but less work hours in general. So it's like, even though I feel like I've been great with like getting things done and doing them well and blah, 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 before having Colin, I had so much more time. So I definitely wasted more time, kind of like halfway working, but not really working. So now I'm doing more focused work, and it's been really great. It's been great for my life and allowing me more time flexibility in work. So here's like the practical application of this tip, besides me just saying let go of traditional views of time management, because that feels very like overarching. Like, how do we make that practical? So here's my tip. Let go of the belief that you need whatever amount of time you had in your business before becoming a mom. Let go of it. Just let it go. That belief that you need that amount of time. And know that if you focus and are more effective in your work, you can do more with less time. And you can get back to your life. You can get back to other things you enjoy. You can get back to your precious baby. So some ways to do this in a really practical sense. Know what you're going to work on before you start working. Ideally, you don't want to just sit down at your computer and kind of be like, what am I going to do? Oh, I might kind of do this. Oh, I might kind of do this. And just kind of putting out fires all day and letting other people's stuff become like the important, urgent thing you're working on. Not ideal. Instead, have the stuff that like you're going to work on and let that lead, and then other people's stuff kind of like come after. So like another quick practical way there would be like maybe consider not opening up your inbox every second of the day, especially if you're not going to even respond to the emails, things like that. Another kind of practical sense thing here, have 1 to 2 things a day that are like the must do things that you would feel like you have succeeded in your business if you get that thing done, and that's it. Having too many more than that is probably just going to lead you to kind of feeling disappointed. And that's not me saying that like you can't have more things on your to-do list, but I would identify like, hey, what are the things that I'm like, I have to get that done today in order for this work time, whether it's just a nap time work or you have like 5 hours, whatever it is, what are the things that if I don't get that done, this will not be a success? And do those things first if you can, or at least one of those things. And I say 1 to 2 because I've found that when you do have less time to work, going for 3, which is often what you hear people say, often feels like too much if it's a shorter work day, which is how I am today. Right now, as I'm recording, I have a little less than an hour before I have to go pick up Colin at Mother's Day Out. We call it Mother's Day Out / Parents Day Out. I interchange that. Well, I have about an hour before I have to go do that, and my work day's over then. And I'm with Colin solo until bedtime, and I'm going to be putting my mom hat on. So when I'm like thinking about my to-do list for this day, it needs to be through that lens of like, I don't have the whole workday to just kind of sit around and do whatever I want. Another practical sense to this tip, if you can automate or delegate it, do it. I think so often we hold on to things in our business that we could automate, create better systems around, or delegate to someone else. I know I already kind of talked about this in tip 2, but I want to expand on it a little bit here. Once you have added a baby to your business, there are some things you probably need to not hold on to when there is less work time. So like, don't be afraid to like consider things like, could I delegate this? Could this team member actually do that just as good as me? Even though you might think that you're the only one that can do it well, could they actually do it better than me? Because maybe they do have the time to do in their schedule, whereas you're doing a lot of other things and you don't. Whatever it is, I would consider that. So yeah, that's number 4, letting go of traditional views of time management. Now, my final tip for you has more to do with mindset and just like some encouragement to you as a mom. And that is to be so gracious with yourself and with your agenda when it comes to being a working mom. So again, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who like had a business before becoming a mom. And so like I've experienced both ways, and being a mom really does change things. It's like so fulfilling being a mom, but it is hard to do your business with a baby. There's a lot more decisions. There's a lot less time. You might be a lot tighter, especially in that first year with all the sleep stuff if your baby's in a great sleeper. So don't expect everything to be exactly what like it was for you before you had a child. A time I'll say that you especially need to be gracious with yourself is probably when you first come back from maternity leave, or even if you're on a maternity leave and like, hey, because we're business owners, you probably are still working a little bit on your business during the leave. Be so gracious with yourself and with your expectations for yourself. And it just knowing that it's not going to be the exact same as before your baby was born. So I had a lot of hard moments early on. I've talked about this on the podcast. I've done multiple episodes about maternity leave planning, how my maternity leave went and all of that. But I had a lot of hard moments when transitioning back into work and even during my maternity leave where I was just like naturally wanting to be really hard on myself because maybe things weren't going well or because I was so tired or feeling really stretched thin between it all. And I wish I would have been less hard on myself. So like you're not sleeping well. If you're breastfeeding, then oh my gosh, that takes so much energy from you. Even if you're doing formula and bottles, that also is really hard and takes a ton of energy from you. Like just feeding, sleeping a baby, keeping them alive is a lot of work. It's hard. So let your baby and your own health come before your business. That is the best advice I can give you. You are going to have seasons in your life where you'll be able to prioritize your business higher than maybe it is right now. But in those early days, weeks, and months of motherhood, arguably like the whole first year of motherhood and maybe beyond that, might not be the time that your business like gets to take a huge priority in your life. Like I already said in this episode, business has seasonality to it. And you might be in a season right now where your business needs to take a step back. And that's okay. And that's beautiful. And that's part of why we started our businesses, right? Like, I think so often we can lose sight of the fact that like you might have started your business, like one of the many reasons being that like you did want this job flexibility to be able to do something like motherhood and working. But then we can be frustrated when we can't work more, when things don't feel like businesses be able to take as big of a focus. When in reality, like that's what we wanted, right? We wanted to be able to like do work and be home with our kids and that sort of thing. So I would encourage you to say right now to you, and I hope this speaks to someone listening, but God has called you to be exactly where you are right now. He has called you to this exact place, and He's going to provide when you have to take a step back and shift what you're used to doing. You are called exactly where you are right now in this exact season. So just hear that and know that, and be gracious with yourself and your agenda. Give yourself time to rest, to get extra sleep, to take a nice long shower, to go on walks, and to like not feel like you need to spend every nap time working. You don't. You will be able to have that time back for your business later, where right now your own health and healing needs you and your precious baby needs you. So that's my encouragement. Those are my 5 tips, and I'm going to reread those for you real quick before we close. So the first one was planning time that you can work away from your baby while leaving him or her with someone else that you like trust to take care of them, so you can completely go into work mode and get a lot of stuff done and then return home and get in mom mode. Number 2 was with your limited time, prioritize what you're focusing on. Focus on less and let go of other things that can be let go of in this season. 3, have the occasional early morning or late night work session to like get some of those hours back for really focused projects. 4, let go of traditional views of time management. Remember, I said this and I mean it. Your business likely does not need 40 hours a week from you in order to be super successful. Even in order to be $1 million business, likely doesn't need that much time. Number 5, be so gracious with yourself and your agenda, and know that God has called you to the season you're in. It's not always going to be this way. There'll be other seasons where your business can be more of a focus, and that might not be right now. And that's okay. And that's beautiful, and enjoy the season you're in. So I love you guys. Thank you for listening to the end. And I hope this blesses you on your motherhood journey in this first year of motherhood as you're figuring it all out together. Let me know if this episode was helpful to you. Let me know any other tips maybe that you'd add that you have learned in your own motherhood journey. I'd love to hear from you. I'm at Elizabeth McCravey on Instagram. Let's keep the conversation going. And if you enjoyed this too, I want to quickly add, I've done a ton of episodes now all about motherhood and business, both like interviews I've had on the show, solo episodes I've done, everything from like maternity leave planning to getting back into work, productivity, multiple people on my podcast who I've interviewed on these different topics. So scroll back through the feed and download those episodes that stick out to you to listen to later and get more help on this topic. I'm constantly trying to create content and teach on things where I'm like, I wish someone had told me that when I was starting this journey of motherhood and business together. So I hope this helps you and that you'll go back and find some of those other episodes as well. All right, that's it for now. And I'll be back next week with another episode. Thanks, guys. If you love the Breakthrough Brand podcast, then you need to join me for the next level inside of my membership, Breakthrough Brand All Access. Inside of All Access, you get coaching calls with me where you can ask me anything and get help with your specific business. If you've ever felt like you want me to be your business coach, you want my take on things, this is your way to do so. You also can get access to our amazing community. Seriously, I can tell you they are the greatest, where you can collaborate, get feedback, and make friends as you grow your business together. And on top of all that, you get additional trainings from me that help you build a sustainable, scalable business. You'll be able to take the things you learn from this podcast and apply them to your business alongside myself and a collaborative group of other business owners. You can get all the details and all the info about joining at elizabethmccravey.com/BBAA. The doors aren't always open, so they aren't right now. Just get on the wait list to be notified as soon as they open up again. So thank you for being here, friend. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. And I hope to see you soon inside of Breakthrough Brand All Access. Again, the link is elizabethmccravey.com/BBAA.